You ever notice how easy it is to start venting when life hits hard? You call a friend, text someone, maybe even post something online because pain needs an audience, right? But here's the truth. Not everyone deserves front row seats to your struggles. Some people don't listen to help, they listen to collect information. And the more you share, the more power you hand over. Today we're talking about why keeping your problems to yourself isn't cold. It's wise, because peace doesn't come from talking to everyone. It comes from talking to the right one. Most people think talking about their problems will make them feel lighter, but often it does the opposite. It spreads your emotional weight around to people who were never meant to carry it. You might expect comfort, understanding, or advice, but what you usually get is judgment, gossip, or indifference. The truth is, not everyone listens to help. Some listen to collect information. Some will smile and nod while mentally rehearsing how they'll retell your story later. When you start to see this clearly, you realize that protecting your peace means protecting your privacy. People love stories, especially ones that make them feel connected or superior. When you share your pain freely, you become a character in someone else's narrative. They'll twist it, exaggerate it, or use it as a lesson for someone else. And the worst part? They'll never feel the sting of what you went through, but they'll carry your story like it belongs to them. That's why silence is powerful. It denies people the ability to rewrite your truth. It keeps control of your narrative in your hands, where it belongs. Not everyone deserves to know what broke you, especially when they didn't help build you back up. Vulnerability is beautiful when it's earned, not when it's broadcasted. When you tell everyone your struggles, you confuse vulnerability with validation. You're not really looking for understanding, you're searching for relief. But when that relief depends on someone else's reaction, you lose emotional control. You start to crave their sympathy like oxygen. True strength comes when you can sit with your pain, acknowledge it, and still choose silence. Because silence doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you've learned to filter who gets access to your emotions. That's emotional intelligence in action. The moment you start oversharing, you hand people a map of your weaknesses. And not everyone who smiles at you is a friend. Some people remember details just to use them against you later. They'll turn your venting into ammunition, and by the time you realize it, your private pain has become public knowledge. The less you explain, the more peace you keep. The ones who truly care don't need all the details. They'll feel your energy, see your struggle, and stand with you quietly. You don't have to say everything to be understood by the right people. It's not about being cold or secretive. It's about being wise. You have to understand that some people are emotionally unqualified to handle your truth. They can't hold it, they can't guide it, and they can't respect it. Sharing with them doesn't heal you, it drains you. So before you open up, pause. Ask yourself, what do I really need right now? Connection or clarity? Because sometimes what you need isn't someone to listen, but silence to think. That moment of pause will save you from the regret of telling the wrong person too much. Words are tools. Jefferson Fisher always emphasizes that, and tools can build or destroy depending on how you use them. When you speak out of frustration, you hand your power over to the moment. But when you choose silence, you gain control of your emotional space. You start to realize not every thought deserves a voice, and not every problem deserves an audience. Some things need to be processed, not pronounced. When you guard your words, you guard your power. Because the more you speak, the more people know. The less you share, the more peace you grow. When something hurts you, your first instinct is to talk. You want to release it, make sense of it, feel heard, but sometimes talking too soon weakens your emotional strength. It's like opening a wound before it even starts to heal. You think you're finding relief, but what you're really doing is scattering your energy. The more you talk, the less power your words carry. The strongest people are not those who never feel pain. They're the ones who know when to hold their tongue long enough to understand what their pain is trying to teach them. Silence gives your emotions room to breathe. It allows your mind to process before your mouth reacts. When you rush to speak, you often speak from the surface: anger, confusion, hurt, not from the truth buried underneath. And once those words are out, you can't take them back. You can't undo what you said in a moment of heat or sadness. That's why emotional discipline starts with restraint. It's not about bottling things up. It's about mastering the timing of your expression. You can't think clearly in chaos, and silence is how you create calm in the middle of it. When you talk before you've thought, you lose your emotional leverage. You give people insight into your confusion, not your clarity. You expose feelings that haven't matured into wisdom yet. Then, when you calm down later, you realize you've said too much, too soon, to the wrong people. Holding your words doesn't make you fake, it makes you wise. It's the difference between reacting and responding. Jefferson Fisher teaches that composure isn't about staying quiet forever. It's about staying quiet long enough to choose your best response instead of your first reaction. There's a quiet kind of power that comes from self-control. When you learn to sit in silence after being misunderstood, hurt, or provoked, you take back ownership of your emotions. You start to see that your peace doesn't depend on other people's understanding. It depends on your restraint. The person who can stay calm under pressure is always in control, no matter how loud the world gets. Silence is not weakness, it's strategy. It's how you hold on to your dignity when everything inside you wants to explode. That's the kind of maturity that can't be faked. When you keep talking, you feed your pain. You replay it, exaggerate it, and relive it. But when you sit with it quietly, you start to understand it. You begin to notice patterns, lessons, and meanings that aren't visible when you're venting. Silence becomes your teacher. It sharpens your awareness and gives your emotions direction. Instead of reacting to the situation, you start responding with wisdom. You stop saying things you'll regret and start saying things that matter. Emotional strength isn't loud, it's calm, patient, and intentional. Talking too soon feels good in the moment, but costs you peace later. Silence feels uncomfortable at first, but earns you clarity in the end. When you choose to wait before you speak, you teach your emotions who's in charge. You. You remind yourself that not every feeling deserves an immediate voice, and not every thought deserves to be shared. Composure isn't natural, it's practiced. It's built in those quiet moments when you choose patience over impulse. And when you master that, your words start to carry weight. Because silence doesn't just protect your peace, it multiplies your power. Every time you open your mouth, you invest energy. And just like money, that energy deserves to be spent wisely. Not every person you meet can handle the emotional cost of what you share. Some people are safe, others are simply curious. Before you speak, you have to ask yourself, what kind of listener are they? Will they help you grow, or will they drain you dry? When you talk to everyone about your problems, you're pouring emotional fuel into places that can't light your way forward. Not every ear is capable of holding the weight of your truth. Energy is contagious. The person you share your struggles with can either calm your storm or stir it up even more. Some people listen just to compare your pain to theirs. Others listen to remind you of your mistakes instead of helping you move past them. That's why being selective isn't selfish, it's smart. You're not obligated to tell your story to every sympathetic face. Some people offer comfort only to stay connected to your chaos. When you start recognizing this, you'll realize that silence isn't loneliness, it's self-respect. Protecting your energy means protecting your peace. You can tell who deserves your words by how they respond to your silence. Real friends don't need you to explain everything. They feel when you're not okay, and they don't rush you to talk. But the ones who constantly pry or gossip are showing you exactly why they don't deserve access to your private thoughts. Jefferson Fisher often says, "You teach people how to treat you by what you allow." When you share your pain with the wrong people, you give them permission to mishandle it. Choose your listeners the way you choose your battles, wisely and rarely. Sometimes the people you think will understand are the ones who disappoint you the most. You pour your heart out, and they give you judgment instead of empathy. They minimize what you feel, offer shallow advice, or turn your vulnerability into a punchline. That moment teaches you something powerful. Not everyone's attention is healing. That's why discernment is key. Your words carry emotional weight, and giving them away too freely dilutes their value. The less you explain yourself, the more you'll find who's truly listening with care, not curiosity. Real listeners make your silence feel safe, not awkward. Energy leaks happen when you talk to people who can't meet you emotionally. You walk away from the conversation more tired, more confused, and more disappointed than before. That's because your energy went somewhere it couldn't grow. But when you share with the right person, a wise friend, a mentor, someone grounded, you feel lighter, clearer, stronger. The difference isn't in what you said, it's in who you said it to. Protecting your energy isn't about being distant, it's about staying aligned with peace. Your emotions are sacred, and not everyone deserves to sit at that table. The truth is, most of your peace will come from the conversations you never start. The more you practice silence, the more you realize that not every thought needs to be verbalized, and not every problem needs to be shared. Sometimes your best comfort is found in solitude, reflection, and prayer, not people. When you stop chasing validation from others, you start finding clarity within yourself. That's real emotional maturity, because when you guard your energy, you stop living for reactions and start living from strength. And that's when silence becomes your greatest form of wisdom. There is a quiet kind of strength that comes from handling your storms in private. When you stop running to everyone with your problems, you begin to build emotional muscle. Privacy becomes the space where you grow without interference. You stop explaining, defending, or seeking validation. You stop trying to prove that you're okay, and you start actually becoming okay. Silence gives your soul the room it needs to heal without the noise of other people's opinions. You begin to realize that the peace you were searching for was never lost. It was just buried under too many conversations. Peace grows in privacy because privacy protects your process. When you keep certain struggles to yourself, you prevent others from distorting your perspective. People can't comment on what they don't know, and that freedom gives you room to think clearly. Growth doesn't always look glamorous. It's messy, emotional, and personal. The fewer eyes on it, the more genuine it becomes. When you share too much too soon, you invite unnecessary judgment that can slow your healing. But when you stay silent, you stay focused. You're not performing your pain, you're processing it in peace. There's power in not being understood. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your silence, your distance, or your peace. Sometimes disappearing isn't running away, it's realignment. You're not avoiding people, you're protecting your energy from being wasted on misunderstandings. The more you explain yourself, the less people actually listen. But when you stop explaining, something shifts. You start to care less about being seen and more about being centered. That's when peace becomes your priority, not people's perception. Maturity is learning that validation isn't necessary for healing. When you choose privacy, you start hearing your own voice again. You start noticing what truly matters to you, not what others expect from you. Silence reconnects you with your intuition, the inner compass that always knew the right direction but got drowned out by noise. You realize that solitude isn't emptiness, it's clarity. You see who you are when no one is watching, and that truth becomes your foundation. You don't need to broadcast your growth because real growth speaks for itself. The calm you feel in private will soon reflect in the way you move in public. Privacy also protects your dignity. Not everyone deserves to witness your low points. Some people are quick to pity you when you struggle, and even quicker to resent you when you rise. Keeping certain things to yourself shields your progress from unnecessary negativity. You don't have to announce every setback or every breakthrough. Move quietly. Let people see results, not explanations. When you carry yourself with calm assurance instead of constant commentary, you radiate peace. You stop proving, start trusting, and your silence begins to speak louder than your words ever could. Peace grows where noise ends. When you stop broadcasting your problems, you create space for reflection, faith, and focus. Privacy teaches you to rely on yourself and on God, not on people's reactions. It's in that quiet space that you develop emotional independence. You stop chasing comfort in conversations and start finding it in composure. The storms still come, but now they don't shake you. You've learned how to be still and know that your peace isn't fragile. It's protected, because when you guard your privacy, you guard your peace. And once you've tasted peace, you never go back to chaos. Silence doesn't mean you have to carry everything alone. It means you choose your listeners wisely. You still need to express what's inside, but you must decide where and to whom that expression belongs. Not everyone can handle your heart, but the right spaces can hold it safely. That's why you talk to God, a therapist, or your journal, not to the crowd, because your problems don't need an audience. They need understanding. The moment you stop giving your pain to everyone, you start giving your peace a chance to breathe again. Talking to God brings peace no conversation can match. You can pour out everything, your anger, confusion, and fear, without being judged or misunderstood. You don't have to filter your feelings or find the right words. You can just be raw, honest, and real. Prayer isn't about pretending to be strong. It's about surrendering the parts of you that feel weak. It's about saying, I don't have control, but I trust you do. That kind of release cleanses the heart. It turns frustration into faith and silence into strength. Some of the deepest healing happens in the moments when only God is listening. Therapy is another sacred space where your emotions are not only heard, but understood. A therapist doesn't listen to gossip or react emotionally. They help you organize your thoughts. They teach you how to identify patterns, process emotions, and regain balance. You're not weak for needing therapy. You're wise for seeking clarity. Speaking to a professional isn't about complaining, it's about confronting. You stop repeating the same emotional cycles because you finally understand them. That's what maturity looks like, choosing structured healing over chaotic venting. You're still speaking, but this time your words build you instead of draining you. Then there's journaling, the conversation between your heart and your paper. Writing is therapy for the soul. It gives you privacy, honesty, and reflection all at once. You can say everything without worrying about judgment or reaction. You can revisit your words later and see how far you've come. A journal holds your secrets, your growth, and your truth. It becomes a mirror that shows you what's been hidden beneath your emotions. When you write, you slow your thoughts down long enough to actually understand them. That's how self-awareness begins, by learning to listen to your own voice. The problem isn't that we talk, it's that we talk to the wrong people. We want quick comfort, not real clarity. We want someone to say, it's okay, instead of asking us why it hurts. But peace doesn't come from being heard by everyone. It comes from being healed by the right source. The moment you start bringing your struggles to places that can actually restore you, everything changes. You feel lighter, calmer, more grounded. You no longer need people to validate your pain because you've learned where true healing begins, in safe spaces, not social ones. When you talk to God, a therapist, or your journal, you're not suppressing your emotions, you're refining them. You're choosing peace over